This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is I want to tell you a short Dvar Torah on the Parsha, and this will segue into our Shiur on Tefillah. Chazal say, actually the Pasuk says in Shoftim, that in advance of the war, the Kohen HaMeshuach Melchama gives a drasha to the people. Are there any newlyweds? Anyone buy a house? Anyone buy a vineyard? Anyone here afraid of the war? If you're afraid of the war, you can't fight the war. You're going to cause the heart of your brother to melt. You got to get off the battlefield. And there's a machlokes between the Bavli and the Yushalmi, what exactly the Avera here is. But the Yushalmi says it's talking about somebody. What Avera is it referring to? Somebody who talks between Yishtabach and Yotzer. If you talk at a time that might be technically permitted to speak, in fact, L'tzarchei Rabim, between Yishtabach and Yotzer is permitted. But just regular conversation is forbidden to the extent that you can't fight a war if you have that sin in your repertoire. So the Chazal say, Choizrin olav me'orchei hamelchama. You have to return from the battlefield. And the Sefer Matei Moshe, in Ois Nun Gimel, he brings from the Mekubalim that there's an idea, and we're gonna start with this in our Shiur on Tefillah, that the Shamayim is full of angels, full of innumerable angels. Angels of peace, angels of war, antagonistic angels, accusatory angels, angels that interfere with your tefillah. And it's very difficult for somebody to send up a prayer to God for it to be accepted because of all of the static and interference. And therefore, before we daven, we say Pesukei de Zimra. Says the Matei Moshe. Pesukei de Zimra doesn't just mean verses of praise, it also means verses of trimming, cutting, pruning. We are lezamer aritzim. We cut down all the heavenly angels that accuse our tefillah. And if somebody talks during Pesukei de Zimra, so all those angels that you blew out of the sky to pave the way for your tefillah, they all come back. What Chazal mean that when somebody speaks by davening, they return from the war front. It's not only going on the soldier in the Jewish army, it's going on the angels that were destroyed so that our tefillah could go up. They come back to the battlefield to destroy the tefillos of the individual. That's the reason why, that's the deeper meaning of Chazal, that Hasach between Yishtabach and Yotzer, Choizven olav me'orchei hamelchama. So that's just a Dvar Torah in Parshas Shoftim, and I use that to segue into our Shiur on Tefillah. So,
you've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.